Hey guys, and welcome back to Drop the Mic. So, I wanted to, we're going to do a video today and we're going to talk a little bit about the new documentary that's out called Quiet on the Set. Okay? It is about childhood actors and actresses. And there was some really damaging accusations that came out of this documentary, um, disgusting accusations. It's very hard to watch to see what these innocent children, now adults, had to endure in in this working environment at Nickelodeon. This was at Nickelodeon. So before we get into it, I just would like to say that everything that I say over here is alleged. It's in my opinion, and it's for entertainment purposes only. Okay? And so we're going to hop right into it. We're going to view a couple of clips, and then we are going to just talk about episode 1 of this show, Quiet on the Set. All right, let's hop right into it.
The clips from videos that Dan Schneider made Ariana Grande perform in are disturbing. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. I'm going to show you some more throughout this video, but I want to inform you of something first. This is Dan Schneider, the showrunner for Nickelodeon and the biggest creep of all time in my opinion. He was the one that made sure that these scenes were filmed, and it was his idea to film them. And just yesterday, Dan Schneider's representative released a statement. This is a quote from Dan Schneider's representative. They said, "Everything that happened on the shows Dan ran was carefully scrutinized by dozens of involved adults and approved by the network. If there was an actual problem with the scenes that some people, now years later, are sexualizing, they would be taken down, but they are not. They are aired constantly all over the world today still, enjoyed by both kids and parents." They go on to say, "Remember, all stories, dialogue, costumes, and makeup were fully approved by network executives on 2 coasts. A standards and practices group read and ultimately approved every script, and programming executives reviewed and approved all episodes. In addition, every day on every set, there were always parents and caregivers and their friends watching filming and rehearsals." And his representative ends with this: "Unfortunately, some adults project their adult minds onto kids' shows, drawing false conclusions about them." I guess I am some adult who has projected my mind onto this footage, and I guess I'm seeing it wrong. At least that's what Dan Schneider wants you to think. That statement is incredibly bizarre. I mean, Dan's really trying to clear his name as hard as he can. He said that none of the footage that they've ever shot was intended to be perceived in any adult or weird way. Now let me show you the rest of these Ariana Grande clips, and you tell me if you think that's actually the case. Because I think that Dan Schneider is lying through his teeth. But once again, I'm going to show you these clips. You let me know.
Oh man, my uvula got stuck between that hamster's toes. See? That could never happen because your uvula is that swingy thing in the back of your throat right here. So there's no way you could get it stuck between a hamster's toes. Sentence number 3. I'm soaking wet! Quick, somebody bring me the ocean! No one would ever say that. Why? Because if you were soaking wet and you were upset about it, the last thing you'd want is for somebody to bring you the ocean. Because the ocean is even more wet than even the wettest person in the world. Have you ever tried to get your whole big toe in your mouth? Check this out. Sometimes I wonder if you can get juice from a potato. Is it possible for a teenage girl to drink water upside down? even me in the video. Come on, give up the juice.
Explain the truth about Dan Snyder and Nickelodeon in her secret Twitter account years ago. Ashley's secret account went by the name of Ashley Banks, and she said she created this account at the time because her parents were controlling everything that she was doing, and she wanted the truth to be heard. She was explaining the truth about a lot of different things, including things that had to do with her, her family, and even other people in Hollywood. She was also crying out for help on this Twitter account and saying that they were stealing her money, and that's why she was placed in this conservatorship. She posted pictures of her ID and pictures of herself to show everybody that this was an original account made by her. And here are some of the things that Amanda Bynes said on this Twitter account. I've been forced to deny this account again to prevent them from having me committed against my will again. Can you imagine having an abortion at 13 because your boss impregnated you, committed because your father touched you, exposing the truth and then having your freedom threatened? And honestly, this tweet was probably the most heartbreaking to hear about how she was impregnated when she was 13 by her boss, and who else would have been her boss when she was 13 years old? And I'm not a big person with blind items, but I'm going to read you guys a blind item from Crazy Day and Night, who was known to have a really good relationship with Amanda Bynes. And in this message, she actually puts a secret message in there, and it talks about Dan Snyder. And here is this blind item that has a secret message hidden within this, and this is from Amanda Bynes. And in the beginning of this message, she puts capital letters in weird places, and then you find out what each one of these capital letters is saying. I tried to highlight each word where these capital letters are, just so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. The first capital letter is D, and then an A, and then an N, which would spell Dan, and then D, then I, then D, which would spell did, and then I, and then T, which would spell it. So altogether, this message is saying Dan did it. And that absolutely gives me chills. Because like I said, throughout the rest of this message, there are no capital letters except where they should be. And I'm just going to read you guys the beginning of this blind item because it ties in even more. Last night, after the news broke about a certain producer and actress, all you know who knows the producer as well as anyone who sent me this. Thank you for all your ongoing support. I don't know how any of these men sleep at night, but there is one thing that I do know. It's that what's done in the dark will always come to light. XOXO. On this account, she also alleged that John Travolta was an SA offender. If you want to F men, that's fine, that's adorbs, but when you SA and harass these men, then you must face justice. He always had men in his trailer, men. I walked in on him and another male masseuse and was nearly fired. He's sick. John Travolta is a monster. It bothers me that John Travolta is not being treated as Bill Cosby is. John Travolta is I know this. And a lot of you might wonder, how would Amanda Bynes know this about John Travolta? Well, back in 2006, Amanda Bynes and John Travolta were in this movie called Hairspray. Amanda Bynes, of course, is right here, and John Travolta is actually dressed like this woman as a character in the movie. So I'm assuming this is what Amanda Bynes meant when she said she knew about John Travolta. She then went on to say, the jig is up, they use me and my talent only to have me committed and steal millions. And during this time, Amanda Bynes' official account was discrediting this account and everything that it was saying. So then she posted, my parents are the ones tweeting on the Amanda Bynes original account. I am deleting this account. Please pray for my freedom and chance to have control over my finances. And reading all this absolutely breaks my heart, but I hope Amanda Bynes is able to speak her truth soon.
All right, you guys. So welcome back. Welcome back. So you guys saw those couple of clips. And what I would like to say is it does a good job at kind of explaining some of the stuff that they touched on in episode 1 of this documentary. So there were several issues, and the ones that stood out to me the most was that there were labor laws being broken. They had super long work days for children. The over sexualization of minors and children. It was supposed to be ha ha, funny, funny, some of these jokes. And as you can see, some of them were absolutely appalling and disgusting. I mean, we're talking about like cum shots, costumes that look like certain body parts, all right, on a man. Like it's crazy. Stuck out to me, it really stuck out was the unfair wages for women writers. Okay. They actually had to share a salary, y'all. Okay. They had to share a salary. It was 2 women that got hired. Both of them were ecstatic to get the job. They were working under, guess who? Dan Schneider. Okay. And he split their salary in half. Now, that's crazy. I also think that Dan Schneider had some issues dealing with women. I think that he definitely was a misogynist. He was a male chauvinist. He did not respect women. He did not respect their craft. These women, he didn't value these women writers at all. Okay. He even asked them, all right, could he call them girls? Like, can I say like where the girls are? How are the girls? And they were both like, well, okay. But they knew that if they had went against him, that it would have been a problem. So then there was a part in the documentary where the women writers were talking about a character that they had made up for, I believe it was Amanda Bynes. And I think the young lady's name, the character's name was Penelope Taint. Okay. So what the people didn't know, okay, but the women did, and Dan also knew, was that the taint is the area between the balls and the anus on a man. Okay. That's what he was talking about, and that's what the little girl's last name was. But he didn't want her to know that that's what the taint was. So he clearly knew what he was doing by having these over sexualized jokes. It's disgusting. And I believe he knew what he was doing. Episode 1 really kind of opened up by talking about Dan Schneider, how he got started in his career. If many of you don't remember him, he was the guy from Head of the Class. He was the big guy with the gigantic, like watermelon sized head. It was him. He was a big, giant white guy with the watermelon sized head. And he was cast as the, quote, fat guy in in this sitcom, Head of the Class. It was a pretty popular show. And he actually wrote it. So they recognized that he had some talent. And a few years later, when the show All That was, they were getting ready to start that show on Nickelodeon, they asked him to write the pilot show. All That was considered like a spoof type show, like a Saturday Night Live or a sketch show, but it was for children. Okay? Supposed to be for children. So he, I guess he has good comedic timing. And I'm sure his comedic timing was great for an adult. For kids, it's a little bit different, but I'm going to digress. So, this first episode talked a lot about Dan and his treatment of the young women on the set, the young girls, the children on the set, all of them. And again, the women that were employed to work underneath him, he was their boss. So let me tell you a little bit about him. In my opinion, based off episode 1, Dan Schneider does not value women, okay, in any capacity that worked underneath him. All right. And there were 2 women writers in specifically that said that he definitely was abusive to them and harassed them, in their opinion, in many, many ways. Okay. He wasn't funny as far as they were concerned, even though he tried to create a playful environment. They said his jokes were super inappropriate, but they knew that if they didn't kind of conform and go with it, that he would get mad at them, he would start mistreating them, and they could ultimately end up losing their dream job, which they loved this job. They wanted this job. This is their talent, and they were happy to be working on the set of All That for Nickelodeon. Okay. He would have them scream like degrading words. Like, it was so weird, the stuff that he would require them to do. Like, he would say something like, or he would call them on the phone and say, yell out, I'm fat. And if they didn't do it, it's like, oh, I'm just joking. You don't want to play around. So they had to be like, I'm fat, oh, yell out, slut. And like, oh, if they would like look at him funny, he'd be like, oh, it's just a joke. You don't want to do it. So they have to yell out, slut. Like, weird stuff like that. Now, mind you, he is their boss. Okay. They said that he would make bets. All right. And then he wouldn't make good on them. One lady in particular, one of the writers, she explained that he said, I dare you to eat 2 pints of ice cream in under 30 minutes. All right. And if you do, I'll give you X amount of dollars. So she's like, okay, bet I'll do it. She's like, it gave her a chance to eat some ice cream, to be naughty. And at the end of the day, she could use the extra dollars. So she did it. And he never paid her the money. Well, when he asked her to do something else again, like a bet, and she's like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do it, because what am I going to do? Add this, when I win this one, what am I going to do? Add it to your tab? But she said it in a joking way. Oh my gosh. He called her in the office and he told her that he did not like being humiliated in front of the other workers, in front of his colleagues, his employees. Basically her insinuating that he doesn't make good on his bets. And she was terrified because she thought that she was going to lose her job that day. And she was really only joking with him. But he could joke with you in any manner he wanted to. But when you joked with him, his big ass watermelon head ego would get bruised. Isn't that a trip? I mean, isn't that a trip? I just think that is so crazy. Like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But again, he could not take what he was dishing out. Okay. And another thing that they talked about in this documentary was his mistreatment of children that he didn't develop a relationship with. Well, let's be completely 100% real. He only was interested in developing really close knitted relationships with the young girls that came on the show. Okay. He would, that was his number one goal. Second in line would be the young Caucasian or white boys that came on the set. So you can almost guarantee that if you were A, black, you were definitely, low on that totem pole as far as him wanting to spend time with you, wanting to, develop a good close relationship with you. And God forgive you if you were black and a woman. You got completely ignored by Dan Schneider. And this is the recollection of some of the adults now, but they were children at the time that were on his shows. They said that they felt treated differently. You know, one girl, a black lady, she described herself as the token black girl. Okay, so it was definitely a mess, and and she said she just felt like he didn't like her, like he didn't like her at all, and her best guess is probably because she was black, but now that she knows a little better, is probably because she was also a woman. All right. And she said she gave a antidote, a story. And she said, on my 13th birthday, all of my friends and everybody on the set made such a big deal out of it. They got me this huge sheet cake. They sung happy birthday to me, got me gifts and all of that. And she said when he found out about it, he got mad. He was pissed. He said that cake didn't have to be that big and they were making a big deal out of her birthday. Okay. I've never seen a grown man do that to a kid, but that tells you the mentality of the person that they were working for. The women writers and even like the costume designers, or actually any woman in any position on that set, makeup, costume, writers, whatever, he would bully them into massaging him every day. Okay? Like, how disgusting is that? Every day, they didn't know who he was going to ask, but he was going to basically make one of those women uncomfortable and have them put their hands on his nasty, funky, stinking, fat, nasty, baloney smelling probably body and massage it in a professional work environment. Okay. And he would tell them, if you give me a good one, then I'll put your work on the show. Like, if they wrote a really good sketch, I'll put your sketch on next week's show if you give me a really good massage. Are you kidding me? Like, this guy was out of control. Okay. One time, one of the writers said that, they were all kind of, playing around or what have you while they were on the set. And he made one of them pretend to be getting sodomized while telling a story. And she was so humiliated, but she knew if she didn't do it, that it would be over. So, the treatment that these women received was absolutely, positively disgusting, in my opinion. Okay. And so the two women writers actually found out that by calling, I believe it's the Actors Guild, that splitting their salaries was actually illegal. So when he was told by, I believe, the Actors Guild, or it had to be somebody in HR, whoever told him, they let him know that he could no longer split the salaries of the two women writers on the show. He was so angry and so pissed when he was told that he had to give both of them full salaries, that he called either one of them in the office, both of them at separate times, and he threatened them. And he threatened them. He was like, are you calling and are you snitching on me? Because if you are, you'll never work in this industry again, and all of this kind of stuff. Like, it was crazy. Those women were so paranoid. And they said that as time went on, he only got worse. Like, he became very, very mean as time went on. The staff was paranoid. They were uncomfortable. Okay. And they said that you know, one minute he would be super sweet, super nice and accommodating and giving you compliments. And the next, he would be yelling to the top of his lungs and mean and just all of those things. So one of the female writers, okay, she ended up having some friends over. This is in her time off from work, all right? She ended up having some friends over to her house and, having a little get together and enjoying herself. And then maybe a few weeks after that, she went to a concert on the weekend. He caught wind of it and he terminated her for it. Okay? This is how ridiculous this guy was. And the other female writer, she ended up getting a contract after he was told he could not split her salary anymore. He said, here's your contract. He gave her a contract for 16 weeks, but he told her, you're expected to work 27. So essentially, she had to work 11 weeks for free. So he was still trying to find a way not to pay this woman what she was worth. Okay. Not even just because she was talented, but she had experience. She had worked on the show at this point for a year or two, and he still was trying to find ways to demean her. Okay. And the part that she said was the most degrading was not only did he really cut her pay, and he also said that he didn't feel that women could be good writers. He turned around and hired an inexperienced male writer at full salary. Okay? How absolutely disgusting can you be as a boss? Then he turns around and she, at this point, because remember, it was only two women writers. One of the women writers was fired because she had a personal life, okay? And the second one, she tried to hang in there, but it got to be such a tumultuous environment that she ended up leaving. But let me tell you the circumstances surrounding why she left. He called a writers' meeting with everyone but her. So all the men and Dan Schneider went into a conference room and they had this gigantic writers meeting and they did not include her. And about an hour after the meeting, he calls her in there and he and the other male writers are still there. And he humiliates her in front of all of those guys by asking her, before you came here, what was your job? Didn't you tell me you were like a phone sex operator or something like that? And she was so humiliated. She said it was nothing that she could do but run out the room. She burst out crying. She was in tears and she left and never came back. But let me tell you what she did do that I applaud her for. She sued the pants off of his ass. She filed a lawsuit for gender discrimination, and she had so much evidence that Nickelodeon settled with her. Okay? They settled. All right. They blackballed her from the industry. So she says she has never worked again in this industry, but they paid her handsomely, I'm sure. But it's a shame. They never did anything to him. Now you got a whole lawsuit that's happening for gender discrimination. They settle probably millions of dollars with this young lady. But they never so much as slap this man on a hand, give him a verbal warning, anything. He continues to work just like he's never done anything wrong. Like, it's crazy. He wasn't even stopped. And this is after they claim to do an internal investigation. Okay. So there's a little bit more on Dan Schneider. Okay. But that's kind of how episode 1 opens up, is talking a little bit about him. And they start to touch on Amanda Bynes a little bit. You guys, Amanda Bynes was probably one of the most talented kids I've ever seen. This little girl was doing stand-up at the Laugh Factory at 9 years old. And they said she was funny, she had good comedic timing, that her jokes was funny, and that she actually wrote her jokes herself. Like, this little girl was talent beyond talent beyond talent. And once Dan Snyder got wind of her, he wanted her, he had to have her for the show All That. Okay, so Amanda Bynes came to Dan Schneider when she was really young. She started working on the set of All That when she was about 10 years old. Okay. Dan was very tied to her success. Her parents, though, in the beginning, they were very, very active, especially her father. Based on episode 1 of this documentary, her father was super involved, and he was so involved that he actually had a very close relationship with Dan Snyder. Okay. But listen, we know how manipulative a pedo can be, in my opinion. Okay. There were some things that Amanda has since claimed, since she's been grown, that she said that this man has done to her. And she definitely has low-key accused him of abuse, of SA, of sexual abuse. And to add insult to injury, Amanda said on her social media account that, imagine your boss getting you pregnant at 13 and you having to have an abortion. She said it. Okay. And she didn't say who the boss was, but she only had one boss at 13. Like, remember, she was not even old enough really to work. Okay. She was working with her parents' permission, right? So at 13 years old, she ain't have but one boss, and that was Dan Snyder. So if that is true, he's a disgusting fat pig. Okay. In my opinion. In my opinion. Now, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into Amanda's story in another video, but I'm just going to give you a quick overview here. Amanda, as an adult, is not flourishing and doing as well as she could be. Right now, she's under a conservatorship with her parents, okay, which means that they control every move, everything that she does. All right. And she seems to have a problem with that based on the clips that I showed you guys. It's just, it's a mess. It's a mess. You know, I think that this little girl had so much promise, and that her fire was snuffed out and totally just dimmed by weird adults that pretty much were selfish, disgusting, and just absolutely ridiculous in her life. That's what it's given. And I feel bad for her because this girl was talented. She had her own show, The Amanda Show. Okay. I mean, Amanda Bynes was a talented young lady. I'm sure she still is. But, you know, as an adult, she suffered with a lot of mental health issues, a lot of mental health issues. No doubt from the creepos that was probably surrounding her when she was a child. Seriously. So that kind of wraps up episode 1. Again, they did talk about some of the other children and some of the treatment that they received. The biggest thing and the biggest takeaway from that is that Dan wasn't a good boss. And if you wasn't young, pretty, and white, and a girl, okay, he didn't really F with you. Now, he would mess with you if you was young, pretty, young, handsome, and a boy. Okay, but it looks to me that his preference was girls, allegedly. In the next video, I'll be talking about the stuff that happened to some of these young men. And when I tell you guys your mouth is going to be hanging open, it's going to be hanging open. So that was it. Like, that was episode 1 of On the Set. It's it's jaw-dropping, it's heartbreaking, it's sad, but y'all know we in the year of revelation, and I'm just glad that this stuff is coming out, because the environment that these children had to endure, no child should be subject to that. No child. So again, y'all, that's it for episode 1. Y'all hop down in the comments. Tell me what y'all think about, what was revealed in episode 1. What do y'all think about Amanda Bynes? What do y'all think about Dan Schneider? What do y'all think about his treatment of women on the set? What do y'all think about his treatment of minority children on the set? Like, I'd love to hear what y'all think. Y'all put your comments down in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. All right. And I'll see all you guys in the next one. Bye.
We've been down, oh, X is my